The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Maya Collins stepped onto Station Helix 7 for the first time, carrying nothing but a small bag over her shoulder and silence in her heart. She was 19 years old, with brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail and eyes that seemed to look through things rather than at them. Galactic Coalition Military Academy stretched before her in massive corridors of white metal and glowing panels. Filled with young recruits from dozens of different species, Maya walked slowly through the crowd, watching everything and saying nothing. A group of Kethari cadets passed her without a glance, their forearms swinging confidently as their reptilian scales caught the light. They were tall and proud, belonging to a species that had produced the greatest military officers in the Coalition for 300 years. Behind them came a pair of Volan recruits, gray-skinned giants with muscles that could crush stone. Laughing at some private joke, Maya stepped aside to let them pass, and they did not even notice her. This was fine. With her, she found her way to the registration desk where a tired-looking official checked her name against a long list. Collins. Maya, the official read aloud. Frontier Colony 7. Selected through the Outer Rim Aptitude Program. He looked up at her with something like pity in his eyes. Barracks Unit 17. Bunk 12, lowest level. Maya nodded and took her assignment card without complaint. She had expected nothing more. The walk to her barracks took her through the main training grounds where senior cadets practiced combat drills. She stopped briefly to watch a Kethari instructor demonstrate a fighting technique. To a group of impressed students, his forearms moved like water, each one striking from a different angle at the same time. Maya studied his footwork for a moment, then continued on her way. Barracks Unit 17 was a large room with bunks stacked 3 high. Along the walls, recruits from several different species were already unpacking and claiming their spaces. Maya found bunk 12 at the far corner of the room, the smallest and least comfortable position available. Her roommate was already there, a female Kethari named Sirith, who barely turned her head when Maya arrived. "You are the human," Sirith said flatly. "Try not to make noise when you sleep." "I will not," Maya replied softly. And that was the end of their conversation. She unpacked her few belongings in silence while the other recruits filled the room with chatter and laughter. A loud voice cut through the noise, and Maya looked up to see a massive Vorlon standing in the doorway. His name was Drex, a senior recruit with a reputation that arrived before he did. "Fresh meat," Drex announced with a grin that showed too many teeth. "Let me see what the Coalition sends us this cycle." He walked through the room, inspecting the new arrivals like a predator choosing prey. When he reached Maya, he stopped and stared down at her with obvious amusement. "A human girl," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. From a frontier colony, no less. Laughter rippled through the room. "Tell me, little human, do you know which end of a weapon to hold?" Maya looked up at him calmly. "Yes," she said simply. Drex waited for more, but nothing came. He snorted with disgust and moved on. "Humans should stick to cooking meals and filing reports," he announced to the room. "The real fighting should be left to real warriors." Several recruits laughed and nodded in agreement. Even the human cadets in the room stayed silent, unwilling to draw attention to themselves. One of them, a confident young man named Kevin Price, caught Maya's eye briefly before looking away. He came from a military family on Earth and had connections that protected him from the worst. Mockery. Maya had no such protection. She returned to unpacking as if nothing had happened. The orientation assembly that evening was held in the great hall of the academy. Thousands of recruits sat in rows while instructors and commanders stood on a raised platform. Commandant Yeltris, a decorated Vorlon veteran with scars across her face, delivered the welcome address. "You are here because you showed potential," she declared. But potential means nothing without proof. She explained the rules of the academy, the training schedules, and the expectations for every recruit. Maya listened carefully and memorized every word. After the assembly, the recruits returned to their barracks to prepare for the next day. Training schedule had been posted on every wall. Tomorrow would bring the first combat assessment, a simulation that would determine class rankings for the entire semester. Earth glanced at Maya as they prepared for sleep. First assessments are brutal, the Cathari said. Many humans transferred to non-combat divisions after failing. I understand, Maya replied. You should request a transfer now, Sareth continued. It would be less shameful than being forced out. Maya did not answer. She simply climbed into her bunk and pulled the thin blanket over herself. Sars shook her head and turned away in the darkness. Maya lay still and stared at the ceiling. Her fingers traced the old scars on her forearms, thin lines that told a story she never shared. She remembered fire and screaming and the smell of burning metal. She remembered running through dark forest with blood on her hands. She remembered the faces of those who thought she would be easy prey tomorrow, would be simple compared to what she had already survived. The mockery did not bother her, because words were just noise. She had learned long ago that actions were the only truth that mattered. Somewhere in the barracks, Drex was still laughing and telling jokes about weak humans. Kevin Price was practicing combat stances, trying to prove himself worthy of his family. Namasaret was reviewing tactical data, confident in her species' natural superiority. None of them knew what Maya really was. None of them could imagine what she had done to survive. Maya closed her eyes and let sleep take her. Tomorrow, she would show them nothing. She would watch and wait and learn, and when the time was right, she would remind them all why humans had earned their place among the stars, not through size or strength or ancient tradition, but through something far more dangerous: the will to endure what others could not, and the patience to strike when no one expected it. The academy had dismissed her before she even arrived. They would learn their mistakes soon enough. Maya woke before the station lights turned on, slipping out of her bunk without making a sound. The barracks was filled with sleeping recruits, their breathing heavy and peaceful. She moved to an empty corner of the room and began her morning routine: stretches that loosened every muscle in her body, movements that looked like dancing but held something more dangerous beneath the surface. She practiced for 30 minutes without rest, her body flowing through positions she had learned in places no one here could imagine. When she finished, she returned to her bunk just as the wake-up alarm sounded. Dead Sareth opened her eyes and saw Maya sitting quietly on her bed, looking as if she had never moved. You are already awake, Sareth observed. I do not sleep much, Maya replied. The mess hall was crowded with anxious recruits eating their morning meals. The combat assessment was all anyone could talk about. Maya took her food and found an empty table in the corner where she ate alone. The Cathari and Vorlon cadets filled the central tables, boasting about their preliminary scores and predicting easy victories. Kevin Price approached her table and stood awkwardly for a moment. You should consider faking an injury, he said quietly. No one would blame you for sitting this one out. Maya looked up at him with those calm, distant eyes. Thank you for your concern, she said. But I will participate. Kevin shrugged and walked away, not wanting to be seen talking to her for too long. Maya finished her meal and reported to the assessment briefing room with the other recruits. Commandant Yeltris stood at the front of the room, her scarred face showing no emotion. Today you will prove what you are worth, she announced. The simulation will test your combat skills, your tactical thinking, and your ability to survive. She explained the rules of the assessment. Recruits would enter a massive holographic arena in waves. The environment would generate a hostile jungle filled with automated enemy targets. The goal was to generate a hostile jungle, was to navigate the terrain, neutralize threats, and reach the extraction point. Scores would be based on kills, efficiency, and survival time. Your rankings from this assessment will determine your place in this academy for the entire first semester. Yeltris continued. Those who fail may be reassigned to support divisions. Her eyes swept across the room and paused briefly on the human recruits. The message was clear. Maya raised her hand and Yeltris nodded toward her. Are there restrictions on weapon selection? Maya asked softly. Snickers erupted from the nearby cadets. Drex laughed loudly from across the room. The little human wants to know if she can bring a bigger gun, he mocked. Maybe she should bring a pillow to hide behind. Yeltris silenced him with a look. Standard loadout only, she answered Maya. Rifle, sidearm, and combat blade. Maya nodded and lowered her hand. The briefing ended and the recruits were divided into waves. Based on their preliminary scores, Maya was placed in the final wave with the lowest ranked recruits from the entrance evaluations. No one was surprised. Simulation arena was enormous. A sealed dome nearly a kilometer across. Maya watched the first waves enter through the observation screens. The Catharian Volan recruits charged forward aggressively, racking up kills with impressive speed. Rex was among the leaders, his massive frame crushing through enemy targets without hesitation. But Maya noticed something the others missed. Every aggressive push triggered additional alarms. Every alarm brought more enemies. The highest scores were also drawing the most attention. Maya filed this information away for later when her wave was finally called. She entered the arena with 11 other low-ranked recruits. The jungle environment materialized around them, thick with fog and strange sounds. Most of her group immediately formed small clusters and began pushing toward the center. Maya moved in the opposite direction. Following the perimeter of the arena, she walked slowly and carefully, studying the terrain and watching for patterns. The enemy drones patrolled in predictable routes, their sensors sweeping the fog in regular intervals. Maya mapped their movements in her mind, identifying gaps and blind spots. Other recruits were racking up kills ahead of her, their scores climbing on the tracking displays. Maya had exactly 0 points in the observation room. Commandant Yeltris barely noticed her. The focus was on the top performers, the cadets who would bring honor to their species. 20 minutes into the simulation, a loud alarm echoed through the arena. Difficulty increase initiated, the system announced. Advanced combat units activating. Suddenly the jungle was filled with new threats. These drones were faster, smarter, and far more deadly than the standard targets. Panicked voices filled the communication channel. There are too many of them. Fall back, fall back. I am hit. Someone help me. The leaderboard began to change as top scorers were eliminated one by one. Drex's team was pinned down by heavy fire. Unable to advance or retreat, Kevin Price's group had been surrounded and was taking casualties rapidly in the observation room. Yeltris watched with growing concern. The simulation was supposed to be challenging, but this was becoming a disaster. Where are the remaining active recruits? She demanded. An operator checked the screens and frowned. Most are eliminated or pinned, Commandant. Most? There is one recruit still moving freely, the operator said. Human female. Collins. Yeltris looked at the screen and saw Maya's indicator moving steadily through the jungle. She had avoided the chaos entirely. She was heading toward the highest concentration of enemies, and her score, which had been 0 moments ago, was suddenly climbing. Geotrees leaned forward. Show me her feed. She ordered. The screen switched to Maya's perspective. What Yeltris saw made her old warrior's heart skip a beat. Maya was hunting, not running, not hiding, not panicking like the others. She was moving through the advanced drones like a ghost, appearing behind them before they could react. Her shots were precise and economical. One trigger pull per kill. Her movements were fluid and controlled. Every step planned 3 moves ahead. This was not the clumsy struggling of a frontier colonist. This was the work of someone who had done this before many times. What is this girl? Yeltris whispered. No one had an answer on the screens. Maya disappeared into the fog. Once more her score continued to climb, and somewhere in the arena, the recruits who had mocked her were about to learn a very important lesson. The jungle simulation had become a nightmare for most recruits. Advanced drones swarmed through the fog, their weapons cutting down anyone who tried to fight back. Drex and his Vorlon squad were trapped behind a fallen tree, unable to move without taking fire. "We need support," Drex shouted into the communication channel. "Anyone still active? We need help." No response came across the arena. Kevin Price huddled with what remained of his team. They had started with 8, and now they were down to 4. The drones had surrounded their position and were closing in slowly. "This is it," one of his teammates said. "We are finished." Kevin gripped his weapon and prepared to make a final stand. Then a voice came through his communicator. Calm and quiet. "Kevin Price, this is Maya Collins." Kevin blinked in surprise. "Collins? You are still active? Move your team 30 meters north in exactly 10 seconds. Maya said, "I will provide covering fire." "How do you know where we are?" 9 seconds. Kevin did not argue. He grabbed his teammates and ran behind them. The jungle erupted with weapons fire. Maya appeared from the fog like a phantom. Her rifle speaking in short, controlled bursts. Drones fell one after another, their sensors unable to track her. Before she moved again, Kevin and his team reached a rocky outcrop and took cover. Maya was beside them moments later, not even breathing hard. "How did you do that?" Kevin asked, staring at her as if seeing her for the first time. "Stay here and hold this position," Maya replied. Ignoring his question, "I will clear a path to extraction." She was gone before he could respond in the observation room. Commandant Yeltris watched with an expression that mixed shock with something like respect. Maya's score had climbed past every other recruit and showed no signs of slowing. "She has eliminated 47 advanced units," an operator reported. "Single-handedly, that is not possible," another officer said. "Those drones are programmed to challenge senior cadets." Yeltris said nothing. She had seen warriors like this before, but not for many years, and never one so young back in the arena. Maya moved through the jungle with purpose. She found Talon, a young Keth-Ari cadet, pinned down by 3 drones. Maya took them out from behind before Talon even knew she was there. "Follow me," Maya said. "We are gathering survivors." Talon did not hesitate. Something in Maya's voice commanded obedience without demanding it. They collected more recruits as they moved, each one stunned by the quiet human girl who seemed to know exactly where every threat was hiding. Word spread through the communication channel. "There is a human leading a counterattack. She is cutting through the drones like they are nothing." Everyone rallied to her position. Even Drex heard the reports from his trap position. He refused to believe it at first. The little frontier girl, who could barely speak up in briefings, was somehow dominating the most difficult combat assessment in Academy history. It had to be a mistake. Then Maya's voice came through his communicator. "Drex, I am drawing enemy attention away from your position," she said. "You will have a window to move in 30 seconds. I do not need help from a human." Drex growled. "Then stay there and fail," Maya replied without emotion. "Your choice." The channel went silent. Drex waited, his pride burning in his chest. Then the drone fire suddenly shifted away from his position. The drones were chasing something else. Someone else. "Move now." Drex ordered his team, and they ran. Maya and saved him without asking for thanks or acknowledgement. This made him hate her even more. Final phase of the simulation was the extraction point, a clearing guarded by the most powerful drone in the arena. Most recruits had been eliminated long before reaching it, but Maya had gathered nearly 20 survivors under her command species that normally competed against each other now worked. Together, Cathari covered Vorlon, who covered humans who covered everyone else. Maya positioned them in a coordinated assault formation on my signal, she said. Hit the Guardian from all sides. That thing is heavily armored, Kevin warned. Our weapons might not be enough. They will be enough, Maya said. Trust the plan. She gave the signal and the attack began. Fire poured in from every direction, overwhelming the Guardian's sensors. It could not track so many targets at once. Maya broke from cover and sprinted directly at the massive drone. What is she doing? Talon shouted. Maya slid beneath the Guardian's weapons and fired upward into its exposed sensor array. The drone sparked and shuddered, its weapons falling silent. Maya rolled to her feet and put 3 more shots into its core. The Guardian collapsed. In a heap of smoking metal, the simulation announced the end of the assessment. Maya stood at the extraction point, her weapon lowered, her breathing steady. The other survivors stared at her in complete silence in the observation room. The final scores displayed on the main screen. Maya Collins had achieved the highest score ever recorded in a first assessment at the Academy, not just for humans, for any species ever. Commandant Yeltris rose from her seat and walked to the arena. Exit. She wanted to see this girl up close. The recruits filed out of the simulation in a daze. Those who had been eliminated early watched the survivors emerge and immediately noticed the change. The Cathari and Vorlon, who had mocked humans, were now walking beside them as equals, and at the center of the group, quiet as always, was Maya. Kalinsareth found her roommate and stared at her as if seeing a stranger. You never said anything, Sareth whispered. You never asked. Maya replied. Rex pushed through the crowd and blocked Maya's path. His face was twisted with confusion and anger. Where did you really train? He demanded. No frontier colonist fights like that. Maya looked up at him with those calm, distant eyes. She said nothing after a long moment. She simply walked around him and continued toward the barracks. Rex stood frozen, unable to respond behind him. Commandant Yeltris watched the quiet girl disappear into the crowd. Then she pulled out her communicator and contacted Coalition Intelligence. I need the complete background file on a recruit named Maya Collins, she said. Everything you have, classified or not. There was a pause on the other end. That file is restricted. Commandant. I know, Yeltris replied. That is why I am asking. She ended the call and looked back toward the barracks. Something was very wrong with what she knew about that girl, and she intended to find out the truth. 3 days passed since the combat assessment, and everything at the Academy had changed. Recruits who once ignored Maya now nodded respectfully when she passed. Those who had mocked her struggled to meet her eyes. The scores from the assessment were posted on every wall, and her name sat at the top like an accusation against everyone who had underestimated her. But Maya continued her quiet routines as if nothing had happened. She woke early, trained alone, ate by herself, and spoke only when necessary. Kevin Price finally gathered the courage to approach her properly. I want to apologize, he said, sitting across from her in the mess hall. I suggested you fake an injury because I thought you were weak. Maya looked at him and shrugged slightly. You were trying to help in your own way, she said. There is nothing to apologize for. Kevin shook his head in disbelief. You are strange. Collins. Yes, Maya agreed, and returned to her food. Sarith had become almost friendly, which for a Cathari meant she now used complete sentences when speaking to Maya. Talon invited Maya to join study groups and was genuinely happy when she accepted. Even some of the Vorlon cadets began treating humans with grudging respect, but not Drex's pride had been wounded in a way that would not heal. the little human girl he had, dismissed as worthless, had humiliated him in front of the entire academy. He could not let it stand a week after the assessment. Drex issued a formal challenge academy rules, allowed cadets to request sparring matches to settle disputes of honor when the announcement was posted. The entire academy buzzed with excitement. She cannot win, a Kethari cadet predicted. Drex is twice her size with twice the arms. Have you forgotten what she did in the simulation? Another replied, that was different. That was tactics and shooting. This is hand-to-hand combat. Maya was studying in the library when Kevin found her. You have to refuse, he said urgently. Drex will hurt you badly. Maya did not look up from her reading. I declined already. Good. Kevin sighed with relief. But he called me a fraud who got lucky in the simulation, Maya continued. He is telling everyone the scores were manipulated. Kevin's relief vanished. That does not mean you have to fight him. Maya finally closed her book and looked at Kevin. If I refuse, the rumors will spread, she said. People will believe I cheated, so let them believe it. You know the truth. Maya shook her head slowly. It is not about what I know, she said. It is about what they learn. She stood and walked toward the arena. Kevin watched her go with a sinking feeling in his stomach. Sparring arena was packed with spectators by the time Maya arrived. Cadets of every species filled the observation galleries. Eager to see the outcome, Irex stood in the center of the fighting ring, his massive gray body rippling with muscle, his forearms flexed as he warmed up. Each one capable of crushing bone. Maya entered the ring. Wearing simple training clothes, she looked impossibly small. Next to the Vorlon warrior commandant, Yeltris stood at the edge of the ring as the official. Observer, her eyes never left Maya. This is a formal sparring match, Yeltris announced. Standard rules apply. The match ends when one combatant submits or is unable to continue. Drex grinned down at Maya. I will try not to break too many of your bones. Little human, Maya said nothing. The signal was given and Drex attacked immediately. He lunged forward, with all four arms reaching to grab. Her Maya was not there. She slipped to the side with a movement so smooth it seemed casual. Drex spun and struck again, his fist cutting through the air where Maya's head had been. She ducked beneath it and circled around him. He attacked again and again, each blow powerful enough to shatter stone. Maya dodged every single one without striking back. The crowd watched in confused silence. Why does she not fight? Someone asked. She is studying him, Talon realized. She is learning his patterns. Drex grew frustrated as the seconds passed. His attacks became wilder, more desperate. He committed too much weight to a massive overhead strike. Maya saw the opening. She exploded into motion. Her fist struck his exposed side, then his knee, then the nerve cluster beneath his second arm. 3 hits in less than a second. Rex staggered, his body refusing to obey his commands. Maya swept his legs and sent him crashing to the ground before he could rise. She was on top of him with her forearm pressed against his throat. The arena fell completely silent. No one could believe what they had just witnessed. Maya held the position for a long moment, then released him and stood. She offered her hand to help him up. Drex stared at her hand, then at her face. The hatred in his eyes had transformed into something else, something closer to fear. He slapped her hand away and rolled to his feet on his own. This is not over, he growled, and stormed out of the arena. Maya watched him go without expression. The crowd erupted into noise, but Maya barely noticed. She walked out of the arena and nearly collided with a human in an admiral's uniform. The name tag read Admiral Lara Chun. Admiral looked at Maya with knowing eyes. Miss Collins, she said, I think we need to talk. Commandant Yeltris led them to her private office. When the door closed, Admiral Chun sat down across from Maya. I know who you are, the Admiral said quietly. Maya's expression did not change. Frontier Colony 7. Chung continued. You were 12 years old when the Harkin slavers attacked. Maya's hands tightened slightly. The only sign that the words affected her. The raiders killed everyone, Chun said. Your parents, your neighbors? Everyone. Not everyone, Maya said softly. Chun nodded. No, not everyone. Because there was a girl who escaped into the forest. Yeltris listened with growing understanding. The rescue team found her 3 days later, Chung continued. Alone, covered in blood, surrounded by dead raiders. She paused to let the weight of those words settle. 7 dead Harkin, Chun said. All killed by a 12-year-old child with nothing but a knife and the land she knew. Yeltris stared at Maya with new eyes. After that, special operations took an interest in her, Chun explained. She trained with the best for years, but she refused a commission. Why? Yeltris asked. Maya answered for herself. I wanted to earn my place without special treatment, she said. I wanted to prove that humans belonged here. You could have told people the truth, Yeltris said. You could have stopped the mockery on your first day. Maya shook her head. Words are just noise, she said. Actions reveal truth. Chun smiled sadly. She has been saying that since she was 13. Yeltris looked at the small, quiet girl who carried so much darkness. Inside her she finally understood Maya had not been suffering. Through the mockery she had been waiting for the chance to prove herself with actions instead of claims, and when that chance came, she had ended the debate forever. 1 month had passed since Maya's truth was revealed. She had become an unofficial leader in Barracks Unit 17. Though she never asked for the role, species that once competed now worked together. Following the example she set without words, Sereth called her a friend openly, which shocked other Cathari who heard it. Kevin Price trained beside her daily, improving faster than anyone expected. Vindrex had changed, treating humans with grudging respect instead of open mockery. Maya remained quiet through it all, the same as she had always been then. The alarms began. Warning lights flashed across station. Helix 7 as an unidentified ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Maya was in the training hall when the emergency broadcast filled every speaker. All personnel, code red emergency. Hostile vessel approaching. She stopped mid-movement and listened. Vessel identified as Harkin Raider class. All cadets report to designated shelter zones. Harkin. The word hit Maya like a physical blow. Hands stopped shaking almost immediately. Replaced by something cold and focused, she walked toward the command center while other cadets ran for shelter commandant. Yeltris was coordinating the defense when Maya arrived. Collins. You should be in shelter, Yeltris said. I know Harkin tactics better than anyone on this station, Maya replied. Let me help. Before Yeltris could respond, the communication system crackled with an incoming message. A harsh voice filled the room. Coalition station. This is Harkin vessel Scarred Fang. We have come for a prisoner you hold. Yeltris stepped to the transmitter. This is Commandant Yeltris. Identify the prisoner you seek. You know who we want, the voice sneered. Surrender him or we will destroy your academy. Yeltris muted the channel and turned to her officers. The nearest fleet support is 4 hours away, one reported. Our defense systems are limited. Can we hold that long? Yeltris asked. Against a raider of that class? Unlikely. Maya stepped forward. There is another option. Everyone turned to look at her. I know how Harkin ships work, she said. I know their layouts, their crew patterns, their weaknesses. You want to board them? Yeltris asked. A small team, fast insertion. Disable the ship from inside. Admiral Chun, who had remained on station, nodded slowly. It could work, she said. Harkin raiders rely on intimidation. They never expect prey to fight back. Yeltris hesitated. These are cadets, not soldiers. I am not a cadet, Maya said quietly. I never really was. The room fell silent after a long moment. Chun authorized the mission. Pick your team, she said. Maya turned and found Kevin, Talon, and Sareth already standing behind her. They had followed her from the training hall. We volunteer, Kevin said. This is not a simulation, Maya warned. The danger is real. We know, Sareth replied. We are still coming. A heavy footstep made them turn. Drex stood in the doorway, his massive frame filling the space. I owe you a debt, he said to Maya. I will repay it today. Maya looked at her unlikely team and nodded. Then let us move. The stealth shuttle launched minutes later. Slipping through space toward the raider vessel, Maya briefed them during the approach. Harken are brutal but predictable, she explained. They rely on fear and overwhelming force. How do we counter that? Kevin asked. We give them something to fear. The shuttle docked at an auxiliary airlock. That Maya knew would be likely guarded. She was right. 2 Harken guards fell before they could raise an alarm. Maya led the team through the ship with terrifying precision. She knew where enemies would be before they appeared. She anticipated patrol patterns without hesitation. The Harken had no idea death was walking their corridors. They reached the engine room first. Talon planted charges while the others stood guard. 2 minutes until we can detonate, Talon reported. Maya nodded and led them toward the bridge. The Harken captain was in the middle of another threatening broadcast when Maya's team burst through the door. His crew reached for weapons, but Maya was faster. She dropped 3 of them before anyone else could fire. Kevin and Drex handled the rest while Sareth secured the communications. The captain stood alone, staring at the small human girl who had just destroyed his command. You, he breathed, recognition dawning in his eyes. Maya's expression was colder than space. You know who I am. The girl from Colony 7, the captain said. They told stories about you. Good stories? The captain's hand moved toward a hidden weapon. Maya shot it out of his grip before he could touch it. I was not at your colony, he said quickly. I had nothing to do with that raid. I know, Maya replied. If you had been there, you would already be dead. She disarmed him with efficient movements and secured his hands. Your ship is disabled and your crew is defeated, she said. Surrender now and the Coalition will give you a trial. And if I refuse? Maya leaned close. Then I will do to you what I did to the 7 who killed my family. The captain looked into her eyes and saw something that made his blood freeze. Surrendered. The team returned to the station as Heroes Coalition. News networks wanted interviews, but Maya declined every request. She walked back to her barracks and resumed reading her training manual as if nothing had happened. Had Sareth found her there an hour later. The whole galaxy wants to know your name, she said. And you are reading about formation tactics. There is always more to learn, Maya replied 3 months later. Maya graduated at the top of her class. Sareth, Kevin, Talon, and Drex graduated beside her as her closest allies. Commandant Yeltris personally presented Maya with her officer's commission. You have changed this academy, Yeltris said. Not just the records, but how species see each other. Maya accepted the honor and spoke publicly for the first time. Strength means nothing without people worth protecting, she said. My team taught me that. 1 year after Maya's graduation, a new human girl arrived at the academy. She was nervous and alone. Carrying a small bag over her shoulder, Kethari, a senior cadet, approached her warmly. Welcome to Station Helix 7, the Kethari said. I am Sareth. Let me show you around. The new arrival looked around at the mixed species groups working together. Is it true what they say about this place? She asked. About the human who changed everything? Sareth smiled. Her name is Maya Collins, and the stories do not do her justice. Far away, aboard a Coalition warship, Commander Maya Collins reviewed her new mission orders. Her crew respected her without question. Her enemies feared her without meeting her. She was still Quiet still underestimated by those who did. Not no better, and still the most dangerous warrior the galaxy had ever underestimated. The Academy had mocked the quiet new girl once. They would never make that mistake again.